все нормально, порешаем. Да, порешаем.
Is there any better way to start a fight week ahead of that undisputed heavyweight championship bout between Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk? Well, this is Deep Waters here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. Deeper dive into boxing's top stories. That was John Fury, Tyson Fury's father, who headbutt a member of Oleksandr Usyk's entourage and started fight week in amazing fashion. We'll just put it that way. I don't know how else to describe a headbutt ahead of a major undisputed heavyweight championship fight. It is going to be a fantastic week of action. Of course, we're going to cover the Fury-Usyk fight all throughout the week here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. All right, I'm not by myself because it's a lot more fun when you have the champs, Paulie Malignaggi and Chris Algieri, and we are joined by Hall of Fame trainer Teddy Atlas, who will be in Saudi Arabia in a couple of days' time, and it was blessed to join us here. Teddy, thank you for joining us here on Deep Waters. All right, well, we'll get a quick thought on this whole situation, Paulie, with John Fury and the headbutt, because we got other big things to talk about as well. But what did you make of that whole start to the fight week?
I mean, tempers flare, right? It's fight week. It's the biggest fight you can make in boxing. I think it's this one and Canelo Benavidez. But this one, I think, is more competitive. So the fact that this one's made and tensions are high and the undisputed title's on the line, and again, it's actually made. It's fight week.
Yeah.
You know, there's also the combustible situation where there was Fury pulled out a couple of months back. So there, tempers flared about that too. About did he fake his injury? Did he not fake his injury? So now these two teams come face to face on fight week. It's been going back and forth. It's a lot of tension. Competition can get ugly at times. We're not condoning any of this kind of stuff, but this is combat. This is not just a game. So, you know what? Sometimes tempers flare a little bit. And plus the Furies, they're all characters, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And they're fighters through and through. And that's not to say the Usyks aren't. Sometimes the Usyks, the Usyk team will, they'll be a little bit more professional about things. But Alexander still gets in the ring with his mean streak and he's ready to rumble and do what he's got to do. But the Furies, they sort of wear their personality on their sleeve. Like, this is who we are. We're scorched earth. We just go at it, and then in the ring we'll beat you up too. We'll see on Saturday, man. For me, it makes me look more forward to the fight. For others, they'll say, there's no place for this kind of thing. For me, hey man, listen, they're not going to play ping pong there. They're going to fight. So let's do it.
By the way, you can see the result of the headbutt right there. That's John Fury, the result of the headbutt.
And mind you, I was saying that off camera. That's a veteran headbutter. Right?
Veteran headbutter.
He lands the headbutt with the middle of his forehead. That's a guy who's given plenty of headbutts in his life. So that's not his first rodeo when it comes to headbutting. Just letting you guys know.
Chris, what do you make of the start to fight week between Fury and Usyk?
Honestly, I don't make much of it. I think people are probably trying to look beyond it. Be like, that's because they don't know if they're going to win. They're feeling this. I don't think so. I think that's just John Fury being John Fury. These are the fighting Furies, man. Yeah. This is what they do. This is what they are. And I agree with you, champ. I'm like, listen, we're not going out there and playing patty cakes. If you're getting in my face, these kind of things can happen. If tensions are running high, people want to be, rooting for their team. I mean, you just look at this scene. I mean, something's going to happen here. And John Fury's not the guy to mess with. And so you get what you get. And sometimes what you get is a headbutt to the face.
Yeah. Teddy, what do you make of this explosive start to fight week between Fury and Usyk?
I'll tell you what it's not. It's not a night at the opera, right? I mean, I think the champs all over it. I mean, that's obvious. This is not ping pong, as Paulie said. It is what it is. It's boxing. It's a combat sport, but it's got a tinge of WWE. I'd probably be wrong if I didn't say that. And again, not knocking anyone this way or that way. I mean, it's not something you normally see. And lately we've been seeing a lot of things in boxing you don't normally see, right? Let's face it. The last couple of promotions, we've been seeing stuff that is not your usual, I think, towards the promotion of the fights. And this is right in line with that. It's the... John Fury is known as a loose cannon, as a character, a tough guy. It's a tough family. Paulie said it right. They're a fighting family, and they don't hide it. But and emotions are high and everything. But I do think that there's, I don't know if it's called a trend, but lately you've been seeing stuff that you don't normally see, as outrageous as promotions can get. The last month or so, with the fights we've had, Devin Haney, of course, and Garcia, and all the stuff going up leading to that fight, and now this, it does have a tiny bit of WWE in it, a little bit.
Yeah. If you smell what John Fury is cooking to go
No.
to end
Daddy,
it there, right there.
You're giving me movie lines. No. You insult him a little bit.
All right,
Yeah, but the thing that I'm scared about with the Furies, they might actually go to the next scene. Where
You're right.
you know what I mean? They might go to. You got.
With them, you don't know.
I got a shovel. All right. Okay, I got a shovel. The first? What do you think? It's the first hole I ever dug? I don't think so.
All right. We'll take a quick break here on Deep Waters, and we'll retort more. We'll talk about the championship fight that happened this past weekend. And Wednesday Night Fights, the best live fight series in all of boxing. Next one coming up, May 22nd here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. All right, let's talk about Vasiliy Lomachenko. Just won the IBF welterweight title with an 11-round knockout victory over George Kambosos Jr. And a lot of the champions in that weight class are lining up to fight him. We've had tweets from Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Davis saying that they would like to fight Lomachenko next, but both of them have fights that they have to get past in order to set up that unification bout. So let's talk about the possible opponents for Vasiliy Lomachenko, starting with the reigning WBA lightweight champion, undefeated Gervonta Tank Davis. All right, Teddy, what do you make of that matchup between Lomachenko and Gervonta Davis?
I'll pay to watch it. I mean, it's a fight that I wanted to see a few years ago. To be honest, Lomachenko, vintage Lomachenko, as great as he looked, oh my God, he looked so good. There's no doubt about it. But he's 36 years old, and he turned the clock back. And it's very, very seldom that you win a round against Father Time. He won a round against Father Time, but it's still a guy with 400 amateur fights. It's still a guy who won a world title in his third fight. I mean, 3 divisions, 3 different weight classes. This is it reminded us, I think we slept on him a little bit, really. It reminded us a little bit of how great Lomachenko. He's a special fighter of our time. He's one of the special great fighters of our time. And the reason why that old saying, out of sight, out of mind, I think we kind of forgot that maybe a little bit. That was a reminder how special this fighter really is. If you didn't want to read a book on the sweet science, all you had to do was watch that fight the other night, and you understood the meaning, the definition of the sweet science and what it's meant to be. Having said that, you don't know when the slippage will start to show. Some people thought it was showing already. The other night, again, very hard to say that, but I'll tell you what I did see. Same thing with Canelo, where he's great, but he's slowed down a little bit. In the past, Loma would have just kept going forward, making you miss and catching you, stepping to the side all the time. Now he did it more in and out, which was fabulous. I mean, it was just nothing but great to watch. But in the past, he would do it more, like I said, just pushing forward and making great fighters submit, making really good fighters submit, like the old Kung Fu movies where the guy, he goes into your chest and pulls your heart out. He would take their hope away, that he was instilling his will on them, that they couldn't do anything about it. Now he does it more with the in and out, with the legs. I had said a few years ago that he had the best legs in boxing. And then I started to say recently that Beaver was up there. I started to think Beaver was up there. Loma's, a notch less than maybe he was. But you know what? I'm back to what I said. He's got the best legs in boxing. He was incredible. I wanted to see him and Tank Davis a couple of years ago. I don't know. I'll tell you one thing, kind of like we talked about same thing we talked about with Canelo, that if he's ever going to fight Benavidez, it better be soon. If this fight's going to happen, it has to happen soon because Lomachenko, again, the clock is still ticking. And I would love to see the fight. I'd still love to see the fight. Why? Because you're getting to see a guy go in there, sort of like if you watch a guy go to disarm a bomb. Can he take the green wire out of and the red wire out without touching the blue wire where it's going to blow everything up and
Teddy,
blow him up?
Teddy, go ahead, finish your thought.
No, I'm sorry, but that is what it's. Can he go in there with a guy as dangerous? He's done it in the past. He has disarmed really terrific punchers and fighters and champions years ago. He's done that. But now he's got a dude with a very dangerous guy with nitroglycerin in his gloves, but a pound-for-pound fighter, a guy that can do it all, a guy who's that good of a fighter on top of being that dangerous.
But here's the thing. He doesn't have to do anything. He's already done a lot, and this is a guy who outright ducked him years ago. Okay, you made a great point.
I'd love to see the fight.
I'm
just saying.
But everybody wants to do things when they got their timing, when they have the politics on their side. No.
I get it.
We'll age him out. No. I see what you're selling, Teddy, and I'm sure a lot of people are selling this. And Tank is a great fighter. I agree with it. Picks his opponents a little bit too much for my liking, but I still enjoy watching him because he's explosive. The thing is, Lomachenko's name has been brought up to Tank since he was back on 130 pounds. He never even acknowledged it because, God forbid.
But that's why, Paulie, that's why I said I would have rather seen it a couple years ago. But I'm not going to say I still wouldn't want to see it because of the chance that Loma can do something that is fascinating to watch. Go in there with a bomb squad and take the bomb apart.
But when he would have took it apart very easily a couple of years ago in his prime, this guy was already a world champion at 130 pounds. This was already coming up at 130 pounds, at 135 pounds. Tank didn't even acknowledge the tweets and the questions about Lomachenko. God forbid one of his responses would have picked up steam and picked up momentum, and then they would have really demanded a Lomachenko-Tank fight. Tank didn't even want to take a risk, so he actually didn't even acknowledge any of it. Now, all of a sudden, Lomachenko's 36 years old, he's acknowledging Lomachenko tweets.
Yeah.
And when Lomachenko's 36, all of a sudden, now we're not worried about what if people cross it up and start promoting it. No, you can't promote it. I'll fight him when he's 36. I don't want to see it. I don't care for it. I don't want to see it. I don't think he deserves that. Lomachenko and
I hear what you're saying.
But I'll tell you.
But I would have, like I said when I started it, I would have rather seen it a couple of years ago. But I'm not going to say now I'm still not into it because Loma is that good.
He's that good, but so is Tank, and Tank is in his prime. Now all of a sudden, I don't know if Loma can win it. You know what I mean? And I don't know if at 36 years old, it's the smartest fight to take.
Guys,
yeah, Chris,
why is everybody calling Lomachenko out now?
Fight.
Why is everybody calling Lomachenko out right now?
It's 36.
Well, yeah, but Teddy, you alluded to it. Thank you for saying that.
Before you make your point, Shakur has always called everybody out. That's I don't know if it's as good of a fight, but I'd give Shakur the fight, and it's easier to make a top rank. Shakur Stevenson has called everybody out constantly.
Teddy, you touched on something.
Unlike everybody else.
You touched on something that I saw. Lomachenko's not the same guy. I know we're all excited he's back. I know he looked phenomenal. He had the perfect guy in front of him. Kambosos was not a threat. Not a threat at all to this man.
And he's been awful in recent fights. Awful.
So there's that. And he did make him look virtuoso once again. But if you really watch, and if you're a real fan of Lomachenko like I am, like you are, Teddy, like Paulie, I know you are, if you really watched him, he's not the same guy. That pressure that you talked about, Teddy, that guy of old would have stopped Kambosos in 6. He had him completely figured out, befuddled by round 4. And that's when he actually started picking things up. Round 4, he couldn't miss a punch. Everything he threw landed.
Here, I agree.
And just like you said about pulling off and walking around, he old manned it. That's what old guys do when they get older. They don't fight full 3 minutes of 3 rounds, of full rounds. Lomachenko used to fight 3 minutes of every single round. That's why he broke so many guys, like you were saying, Teddy. Guys were quitting. He was Lomanchenko because he did not stop. He had 3 minutes on for 12 straight rounds or as long as it lasted. That guy's gone. So a guy like Gervonta, who doesn't have to deal with him for 3 minutes of every round, now I want to make that fight happen.
Ooh, interesting to see what will go down. By the way, when he said Frank in the tweet, he meant Frank Martin. He's going to fight him June 15th, Amazon Prime pay-per-view. So we'll see if Tank Davis gets past Frank Martin, who's going to be a difficult opponent. and it might be able to set up that fight against Lomachenko. Well, coming up on the other side here on Deep Waters, we'll talk about another contender, a man who has a belt that could face Vasiliy Lomachenko. Welcome back to Deep Waters. All right, previously we talked about Lomachenko versus Tank Davis. Chris, what about Lomachenko versus Shakur Stevenson in a unification bout? How do you see that one going? What's your thoughts on that?
Man, I like Shakur against everybody. I've wanted to see him fight every single, of these guys that are in there. Tank included. Navarrete now coming up. Whoever. I think I like Shakur, and I pick Shakur over all these guys at this point. Even Lomachenko. Shakur had a great quote. He said, this would be the highest boxing IQ fight you're ever going to see. Mm-hmm. It's two master chess players with super high boxing IQ. My concern is that it wouldn't be the most entertaining fight. Wouldn't be the most scintillating fight because Shakur is very good at diffusing interactions and being able to win from the outside. And even though a lot of punches aren't landing, he wins the moments. He wins the in-between time. So a lot of times it can lead to fights that are not entertaining, which is why I like the Tank Davis fight with Lomachenko. But Lomachenko does push the pace. He will have to close the distance. He'll try and make a fight out of it. He's very exciting, even though he's a boxer as well. But yeah, I think at this stage, just like the champ said earlier, you're looking at a 36-year-old fighting guys in their absolute primes now, and physical primes, and also that technically they've gotten much better in the recent years. So yeah, I think it's a really tough fight for Lomachenko.
All right, Paulie, what do you make of Lomachenko versus Stevenson?
I don't think it's got the buzz that a Gervonta Davis fight would have because Davis is explosive, but Shakur Stevenson, unlike everybody else, has actually been calling out for everybody. I can remember when Shakur was calling out Lomachenko in a fight where I wouldn't know who wins. It's like, I can when all these years before when Davis was ignoring Lomachenko, I felt Lomachenko would beat him easily. But Shakur is another level of IQ where even back then I was like, oof, man, it's a tough fight. Who would win this fight? So it makes your mouth water. I just feel bad for Stevenson because he's the best of the bunch for me, and nobody's fighting him. And I get he's not the most exciting guy. This is the only sport that complains about that. The New Jersey Devils used to win a bunch of Stanley Cups with a neutral ice trap. People couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand that team. They were boring. They'd win. I couldn't stand it, but I still watched the NHL. The NBA, the Bulls had the triangle defense. You know, people couldn't stand it. But you know what? The Bulls kept winning. What, are you going to stop watching the NBA because your team's not winning? You know what? You can hate Shakur Stevenson for not being the most exciting guy, but he's effective. Why do we have to judge everything on, it's not exciting? You don't judge every other sport if a boring team wins. You still keep watching the sport. Listen, root against them then. Let me see who can beat him. I think Lomachenko and Stevenson will be a very, very high IQ fight. I think Shakur does deserve the fight, but it's going to be up to Lomachenko. I saw an interview where he said his father is the one that wanted this fight. So he said, you know what, I didn't want to quite retire off the Haney loss. It's controversial, whatever, but I did this because my father wanted it. Well, if his father now tells him, you know what, let's just call it quits, I think Lomachenko retires. And I think he deserves to, honestly, as the IBF champion. But if he's going to fight again, this is also the easier fight to make. Both are with top rank. And it's a passing of the guard fight for me. Passing the torch.
Teddy, what do you make of Lomachenko versus Stevenson?
Listen, it's hard to argue with two of the smartest people in boxing. I mean, that's why I hate following them, because they're freaking smart, and they say a lot of things that I hate to be in a position to say, I was thinking of saying that too, because it doesn't always sound genuine. People want, yeah, Ted, yeah, sure. But you got to start with the time. You got to start with the 36 age, where if it was a couple years ago, I favor Lomachenko a couple years ago. And look, the most difficult part of Shakur Stevenson, he's like a Rubik cube. It's hard to figure him out. It's hard to deal with his style. Yeah, I know that sounds simplistic, but his talent, but his style, the way he applies his talent, that's what he's got. Great eyes. He's got great hand speed. He's got a great sense of anticipation, great timing, and a great sense of defense. And he's cautious enough to make it very hard to get him to make a mistake, where he fights his fight. What I mean by styles, he gets guys to fight his fight, and not everyone can do that. And the one thing that you always hear commentators say, well, he's fighting his fight. He shouldn't be fighting his fight. You get to a place with Stevenson, you have no choice but to fight his fight. He controls range so damn well. You take a step 6 inches in, he goes back 10 inches, and he looks to counter you. So that's number one. It's very difficult, but if you were to defeat what I just described of a guy who's that good in those dimensions, what do you need? You need good feet, quick feet. You got to close the gap. You need a high IQ. You got to feint him a little bit, make him make movements prematurely, and then go find who's got quick feet, who's still got good feet. Lomanchenko, he showed us that the other night, even at 36. Who's got a good IQ, a great IQ? He does. We showed that. And one other thing, what else do you need? They already know. You need body punching. You can't reach to the body. You got to be in a position to get it. You might have to set a trap to lure him in a little bit, get him to be aggressive. Maybe you can get him to be aggressive where he normally wouldn't be with a 36-year-old now. Where you can get him in, you can count him to, but you got to be able to go to the body because that's a little easier to hit, number one, than it is to the head of Shakur. And number two, you want to take Shakur's ability to change range. No better way to take that ability away than take air out of the tires, go to the body. And again, Lomachenko, even at 36, what did he show the other night? Oh my goodness, he is a good body puncher.
All right, Shakur Stevenson taking on Artem Khartourian on July 6th. I think I said the name right. All right, Deep Waters continues on the other side. Welcome back to Deep Waters. We continue our discussion of possible opponents for Vasiliy Lomachenko, recently crowned IBF lightweight champion. And we've talked about Gervonta Tank Davis. We've talked about Shakur Stevenson. We're going to make a quick mention of El Vaquero Emmanuel Navarrete, who has a big fight for the WBO title against Denis Berinchik in San Diego on the same day as Fury and Usyk. All right, Teddy, very quickly here. Of those three, which is the easier fight to make for Lomachenko?
It's got to... Tank Davis, I'll start with the hardest. Tank Davis is going to be the hardest one because Navarrete and Stevenson are with Top Rank, who Lomachenko's with. They don't have to cross the street. They keep it in-house. And promoters love to keep fights in-house where they control both ends. And they make all the money, or a lot of the money. So those two fights have to be at the top of the list. If I pick one, it would probably be Navarrete.
All right,
and
Chris.
he's fun, and I love watching that guy, by the way. How can you not love Navarrete?
Yeah, especially that fight against Valdez. That certainly was a wild fight. All right, Chris, quickly. Of those three, who's the easiest to make?
I agree with Teddy. I think the Navarrete fight makes the most sense. It's the easiest to make. It's a very winnable fight for Lomachenko. He's going to be fighting a guy that's close to his size for once. So I think it's actually a really good fight for Lomachenko. If Lomachenko is to continue his career, I believe that's the next fight.
And if Navarrete takes down Berinchik,
right? We're assuming that he wins this fight.
Beats Berinchik in San Diego. All right, Paulie, it's up to you.
Yeah, I think Davis is the hardest fight to make. I think it's going to be either Navarrete or Stevenson, angling more towards Navarrete because it's more winnable, it's more competitive, I think, at this point.
And it also kind of becomes like a semifinal for Shakur.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's going to be Lomachenko and Navarrete.
It's going to be a great fight either way with all three of them. Don't forget, big fight breakdown after the Fury-Usyk decision here on ProBox TV.